Scott G. Marshall, the Dog Dad, everybody. Welcome to another video. I am here with Saro, and I'm so excited to have him both on my channel and be on his channel because I think that we're going to be able to bring a lot of value to both sides. Me providing some raw feeding information to his audience and him providing some training advice to my audience. Welcome, Saro. How are you today?
Thank you very much. I'm very well today.
Good, good. How is the weather? You're out in Vancouver, is that right?
Yes, it's pretty hot now. Yes, we used to have a very wet, rainy season, but now we are nice and hot.
Oh, good. It's been a little bit too hot here. We've been into the triple digits, and it's just way too hot.
Wow, I can imagine.
All right, so I know that we both wanted to keep this relatively, not super short, but not make it an hour-long session either. Right. So I think that we should just get right down to it, and just so that everybody knows how we're going to do this format is Saro's going to ask me a food question, and I'm going to ask him a training question. We both have 3 questions prepared, so we're going to go back and forth like that, and then we're going to close out the video. So go ahead, Saro, with your first question.
All right. Thank you for allowing me to do this, and I'm excited too. And I think it's important to educate dog owners about everything that we can. And I found your channel, and I think you're doing a great job. And we need to educate dog owners in this part as well, which is diet itself.
Yeah.
So my first question is, I want you to kind of explain and let everybody know what are the negative effects of feeding dogs kibble or dry food?
Okay, so this is a really good question, and we could literally do an hour-long session on just this alone. Right. So I'll try and point out the biggest key portions of it. Obviously, it's not species appropriate. If our dogs, our cats, our ferrets, whatever raw-fed pet, on this channel and your channel exclusively talking about dogs, they're not hunting down bags of kibble, right?
Right, exactly.
There's not bags of kibble growing legs and running through the forest. So, it's not species appropriate, and it's not what they were built to eat and digest. And we can simply look at an x-ray of some dentals from a dog and clearly see that they are carnivores. That's why they have a mouth full of pointy teeth and not flat molars like a leaf eater. Yeah. So it's not species appropriate. And there are some other scares, lots and lots and lots of recalls from infected batches of dog food that have had, E. coli, salmonella, the list goes on.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of other bad things that were found in that. But if we were to completely get rid of all that stuff, because let's say that those were just mistakes, one of the biggest problems is the sugar/carbohydrate levels inside of dog foods. And in fact, Dr. Karen Becker and Rodney Habib some time ago, I can't remember exactly how long it was, actually did a study into some of the leading brands of dog food. And they even looked into some of the grain-free options, and they make you think that it's so much better. But in fact, yeah, a lot of these grain-free alternatives had more sugar than these standards. So that's really those are the really big problems. We could go really deep into it, but it's not species appropriate. It's not what they were built for. And the havoc that the sugars and the carbohydrates have on the canine body, digestive system, everywhere from end to tail, it's just not good. It's not what they were designed to eat.
Exactly. It's not natural. It's not, as you say, species appropriate diet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like it's my turn for the first training question. And this one personally drives me crazy. It makes me want to start to yell at people as soon as I hear somebody say this. But being a dog trainer, how do you feel? What would you say to the people out there that say they're just dogs or it's just a dog?
Right.
What is your response and feelings on that?
This is a very good question too. So one of the main things that I'm trying to do with dog owners is to teach them, educate them, to learn about dogs. But the other thing is that dog owners have to understand that their dog is 100% dependent on the human. So what that means is a dog who is relying on you on everything, you know, behavior-wise, diet-wise, life-wise. They're 100% relying on you, and they're dependent on you. So it's not just a dog. It's a creature that you have invited to your home, to your life, and you have to be 100% responsible for whatever he's doing, whatever lifestyle you're choosing for that dog. So I kind of understand most some dog owners, I would say, they say, you know, it's just a dog, you don't have to really do anything. But the thing is that dogs are forced in a way to live with humans. Us humans are the ones who go and pick the dog and select the dog and bring the dog to our home, and we force them to live with us. So we have to do everything that we can to get them to live a better life, a healthy life, as good as they can. And it's not just a dog, it's a family member as well, you know, because again, you're bringing that dog to your home and you're saying, you know, I'll take care of you, just like I'm taking care of other family members. So you have to kind of be aware of that and not just deal with the dog, because a dog itself, it's on its own, it's going to do its own thing. But when they're living with humans in human lifestyle, it's a completely different story. So you're supposed to be thinking of, it's not a dog, it's a family member in a way.
Right. And it's not like, you know, we're going through their approval process before we get to adopt them or buy them or whatever it is. Yeah, they have no say in the situation.
No, no, unfortunately, no. And also, us humans, we have to be aware of it and be a little bit conscious about it. That, you know, we are really, they are really dependent on us. Like every second, they are just thinking what's going to happen next, what they're doing. I was just going to go to sleep, and all of a sudden we're going for a walk. You know, they have no choice, and they have no idea what's coming next. We are the ones, oh, I feel like going for a walk, I'll take my dog. So they don't know anything. They have no clue what's going to happen, what's happening. So you have complete control of your dog. So it's not just a dog, it's a family member, and you have to respect that and take care of them.
I couldn't agree more. Well said.
Thank you. All right, so it's my turn now. So the question that I have, the second question that I have, this is another question that I get from my clients and everybody else asks me, and it's just I would love you to kind of educate them. What are the advantages of feeding dogs raw diet?
Okay, this is another really, really good question. And again, I think with all of these questions, we could go on forever.
Yes.
But, so I'm going to try and compartmentalize here, but I'll go down into some of the sub-levels of this, but really on the highest level, it's because, just like what we were talking about before in question 1, it's species appropriate and it's natural. You know, I mean, so I'll just go into some of the sub-levels of this because it'll explain more of it. Let's come back to the teeth, right? Teeth, when they are introduced into an environment with having to eat the kibble, it's awful. That's why you see dogs that are 1.5 years old that have level 2, 3, 4, 5 dental issues and are having to have teeth removed because, again, those sugars, those carbohydrates all get into the teeth and it just wreaks havoc. Yep. With a raw diet, you get a lot of cleaning benefits as your dog is chewing through bones, as your dog is chewing through meat, as they are, you know, not so much with the liver and the other offal, the other organs, because it's all slimy, easy to get through stuff. But the chewing process actually cleans the teeth. We've been into the vet before, whether it was, you know, a couple of weeks ago when one of my dogs was sick, and which was not related to the raw feeding. They have nothing but, like, when was the last time, they'll say things like, when was the last time that your dog had a tooth cleaning? A year ago? And I was like, no, keep going, and it's been years. Exactly, every single day. Yep. And they can't believe how pink the gums are, how white the teeth are, and just how good of condition. Like Vulcan is my oldest dog, and he is going to be 7 in 11 days, and he has better teeth than a lot of the 6-month-old dogs that I see on kibble.
Right.
So dental issues, dental benefits is a huge one. Along with the chewing, it will develop the shoulder and neck muscles so that they are stronger and are able to basically be a healthier, stronger dog that is just overall has a better structure, because that's what this support structure is for. Their shoulders, their big arms, you know, even if it's a small dog, they have big areas up here compared to their size. And all the chewing and crunching action, the throwing it to make sure that it gets to the right side of the mouth, all of this just develops the dog in a more natural way. There are some cases where you can actually, once you've been doing it for a while, you can look at 2 different dogs that say that they're same size, same weight, came from the same parents. One's kibble fed and one is raw fed. And sometimes you can look and just be able to tell which one was raw fed because of the physical development.
Right.
And I think that really kind of coming back around again, we could go on, and I'm trying not to bloviate too much here, but it's just more natural. We actually provide what the dog needs. We don't provide too much starch, sugar, carbohydrates. We are modeling nature. Whether you are going to choose prey model, whether you're going to choose barf, which is biologically appropriate raw feeding or raw food, depending on who you ask, or if you're going to choose whole prey, all of these are trying to model the natural diet of a dog, which is meat, bones, liver, other organs, and the list goes on. So we're trying to model nature.
How about vegetables in the diet?
Vegetables in the diet is a massively debated topic. And the barf people, the biologically appropriate people, are the ones that tend to feed the vegetables. Some of them will subtract amounts of the meat to make up for the vegetables, and some people will just add vegetables. Somebody that I would really recommend if you're interested in that model is checking out Kimberly Gauthier. That's Gauthier. She has a website too called keepthetailwagging.com, and she feeds a really good vegetable mix. I personally don't, not because I have an issue with it. I'm just going with what they call the prey model. I do sometimes give a carrot or a blueberry or a raspberry here and there, more as a fun treat type thing, but it's not something that I do on a regular basis. And I have no issue. It's one of those things where you can get into a raw feeding Facebook group and people are just going to tear each other's throat out over.
Right.
So I think that there are benefits. Some people do really great with it. And at the same time, I think that it comes back to knowing your dog, because some dogs just don't do well with it. Even though you can feed vegetables that are very low starch, some dogs just have awful problems with starch on any level. And so for those dogs, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's great information. Some of the points that you made is just new for me, and I'm guessing that it's new for many of our audiences too. I learned a lot, actually. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So my turn, I guess.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. So there's tons of things that you could teach your dog to do, right? You can get into basic obedience. You can get into schutzhund. You can get into, ring work. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. For the average pet owner, what do you feel is the most important command that a dog should know? For some reason we're losing my video here. Oh well, we're just gonna run with it.
Okay, all right, okay. Oh, you're back, you're gone. Okay.
Yeah, we're just gonna roll with it. Technological issues. It's a live interview. Things are gonna happen, right?
Yes.
So in your opinion, what is if you're going to get a dog for you, this new dog that I'm getting, they have to be able to do this command reliably. Is it come, stay, leave it, retrieve? What do you feel is the most important thing for pet owners to teach their dog as far as a command goes?
All right, this is a good one too. So I would say, that in general, in dog obedience, dog training world, they say recall is the most important command, which is to come, to ask the dog to come. But the thing is that that takes a long time to teach the dog, and it's kind of one of those commands that they call it life and death command, because you can save the dog if the dog is running away to the traffic or whatever.
Right.
You can call and save the dog. But that's part of dog training itself. But in my personal opinion, I would say the most important command that you can teach to a dog is stand and stay. Stand and stay is basically the dog stands and stays there. The reason this is important, in my opinion, is because not only us dog owners can use this command, groomers can use it, the vet can use it. Every part of the dog that life is in the dog is involved with, they can use it. So like the groomer can ask the dog to stand and stay so they can groom the dog properly. The vet can ask the dog to stand and stay so they can check the body, check the, everything that they need to check. And us, we can teach the dog to stand and stay while we are chatting with somebody. Right? You don't want your dog to sit. Probably it's raining or it's cold or whatever. You don't want your dog to put his bum down. You want them to just stand and stay while you're chatting with somebody or you're waiting for something. Just stand and stay. So in my opinion, I would say it's more common to use a command that is more used all the time, because the reality is the recall command itself. I have a personal point of view about this command. It's because if you have a dog who's trained, you don't have to actually call it. The dog is going to be always nearby.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's always nearby and always is checking back on you and all that. So you don't really have to call it to come.
Right.
Right. The command I would suggest to you teach the dog owners is basically stand and stay.
And that really solves the, the life and death command, like you were talking about. Your dog's about to run into traffic, right?
Right.
If you've already preemptively told your dog to stand and stay, then they're not going to be running into the traffic in the first place.
Exactly, yes.
And I love the fact that you could use that at the groomer, that you could use that at the vet, because, that's one of the biggest issues with dogs, right, is getting them to sit still.
Yes, exactly.
They don't you need to hold still for a second, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is one of the commands that most, the groomers especially, they tell me that you have to teach this command to the dog, because it just drives us crazy. We want to groom the dog on the bottom especially, and they're having a hard time. So yeah, it's, the vets themselves, all the dog related businesses, they would suggest dog owners to teach the stand and stay command. Beautiful.
And is there a place on your channel, on your website, anything where someone can go and watch a video about that?
I'm just new with the channel as well. I haven't been able to add a lot of videos. It just takes a lot of work and time.
Yeah,
but
it does.
I will be adding a video about the stand. I'm going to be starting to add some commands in my channel videos. That stand is going to be in there as well. Yes, soon. So yeah, if they want to see it, go to my channel, subscribe, so you can get the video in your inbox.
Beautiful. All right.
Okay, so my last question is, so we know that kibble or dry food it's garbage. It's not a diet, proper diet. We know that raw diet is more species appropriate diet, and that's better. But let's say some people are, they don't want to go with kibble because they know it's garbage. And some of them are kind of sensitive about feeding raw diet. Is there any alternative that we can use to feed dogs a better diet?
Yes. So, I mean, Yes, there are. One of the options is technically still raw, but I think that when it comes to a lot of people not wanting to feed raw, if we exclude the cost part, because people have this assumed theory that
It's
feeding a raw
expensive.
diet is going to be super expensive,
Right.
which it can be if you don't do it the right way, but there are ways out there to make it much more cost efficient. But if we take the cost factor out, I think one of the biggest issues that people have with feeding raw is handling the meat, especially if it's somebody that is a vegetarian or vegan, or they're just squeamish. So if that type of person that just doesn't want to handle or deal with all the meat still wants to feed a raw diet and they don't want to feed kibble, you can get pre-made raw diets. They come in all kinds of different forms. Darwin's is a really good one. There's tons of them out there, but essentially you can get this pre-made stuff that has all these things that we've been talking about already. It has meat, it has bone content, it has liver and other organs. Some of them include vegetables and fruit, and you can get them in either chubs, where you can just defrost them and separate them out into whatever size portion that you need for your dog. And then they also come in patty form. It's basically just like, all that you have to do is take the patty out of the freezer in the morning, put it, or the night before, depending on what your feeding schedule is, put it into a bowl or a container or something like that, let it defrost, and put it on the floor. And let the dog eat it out of their dish like they would kibble. That's about as simple as raw is going to get, is going with a pre-made option and just doing that, because it's so simple. It's basically like feeding your dog depending on the size, a patty or two patties or whatever of a hamburger patty, right? That's all you're doing, is you're pulling it out, defrosting it, putting it on the floor, and you're done. If they just don't want to deal with the raw at all, there are alternatives that I don't have tons of information on because I've never done it, because I just went immediately raw. As there are home cooked diets, and I would feel that those are still better than, they're not as good as the raw diet in my opinion, but they're leaps and bounds beyond a kibble diet. And this will include things like cooked meats, as well as a lot of boiled and pureed vegetables. Some people include rice. I would, if that's the option that you want to go into, I would recommend, just like any other diet, do heavy amounts of your own research. Go and get a book, go and get a course, go and get a mentor, something, and really learn what it is before you start. Don't just start, or else you're going in blind, you're going to cause issues. But if you do go with a homemade option, and you're cooking it basically, a homemade cooked option, one word of caution that is, a bottom line, there's no arguing about this. There's lots of things in dog food that people will argue. But one thing that can't be argued, and no one is arguing because it can't be, is you should never, ever, under any circumstance, feed a cooked bone. A cooked bone has been, I'm sorry, apparently we've got construction coming through. A cooked bone is a major hazard. The process, when let's say a chicken bone, for example, right? In its natural raw state, they're extremely moist, they're extremely pliable, and when they do break, they more crumble, I guess I should say. It's not really crumbling like, rice or something would, but
powdery.
Yeah, basically, if you were, I saw a really good video on this and explained it really well. If you were to take a hammer, let's just say, and you pound it on a raw chicken bone, you're basically going to have little pieces that are dripping with moisture, and they're super wet, and they're easy for the system to break down. The cooking process extracts all of the moisture from that bone. It's kind of the theory of, even though you had your food in your crock pot, if you left it in there too long, you take it out and the meat's dry. And you're like, how is the meat dry? It was soaking in water. Well, it's the same theory. All the actual moisture from the material itself, in this case bone, has been removed. So instead of it breaking into small pieces like a raw bone would, they will hold up to a lot more pressure because they're a lot stronger. And when they do break, they splinter. And that's when you run into problems with, obstructions, with punctured intestines. And this really is where the myth of you're not supposed to feed your dog chicken bones comes from. Is people cooking chicken at home for themselves and then giving their dog that bone, and all of a sudden there's problems, but it's because it's cooked. So if you're going to go with a homemade cooked option, no bones, no bones. It's it's a scary situation. It's just don't do it.
Right. And I think one thing that I'm going to just add to that, I would say if you're going to go home cooked, I think that one of the most important part of it is adding supplements as well. You have to add supplements because when you're cooking, you're losing some of the nutritional values. Mm-hmm. You want to add tons of supplements in there.
Yeah, and I think that when not specifically for home cooked, because again, I don't feed it, I don't know a whole lot about it, but just on a line of supplementation, if it's not supplementing for a home cooked purpose because you're trying to fill those holes that you're missing from the cooking process, if you're going to start, when you go into a raw process, if you're going to start raw feeding, don't get caught up in the supplementation at first. In my personal opinion, if you're not filling holes because it's a cooked option, so you're filling those holes that you're losing from the cooking process, supplementation should be about solving a problem, and you shouldn't supplement for a problem that doesn't exist. Like, if you have a 2-year-old dog that has no joint issues, there's no reason to be giving them a joint supplement for senior dogs.
I see. Yes. Okay. Yes. Makes sense. Yes. Yeah. Even just a additional question. Even for prevention, is better not to.
It really comes down to the issue. So let's go back to the joint supplement thing.
Yeah.
If you know, let's say that it's a German Shepherd or any other breed that has, huge issues with hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If your dog is getting up in years and you are starting to notice any signs of they don't want to jump up things anymore, they're more hesitant to jump into the back of the truck, especially if you were lucky enough to know the dog's parents and they at some point had joint issues, then maybe at that point you would want to start supplementing so that your dog doesn't have to suffer as those issues come on. But I don't think that right from the get-go. So if you have a dog that is going to be prone to hip dysplasia and their parents had hip dysplasia, but you took them to the vet and they're 1 year old and they're fine, don't be giving them a joint supplement yet.
Yes.
And on that note, and I don't know if maybe you feel differently, but just from my research, dogs will suffer for a long time before they start to give you symptoms, before they actually start to display the fact that something is wrong. So by the time that your dog is starting to show, like, ow, my hip is hurting, their hip's probably been hurting for a really long time.
Wow, that's a great point. Yes. Oh yeah, I see that all the time. Many dog owners, they as you say, the dog doesn't say it, doesn't show it until it's too late, and many dog owners, they don't notice it until it's too late too. Yeah.
Right.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Wow, it's mind-blowing. I love it. All right. I think it's my turn.
Yeah, it is. It is your final question. Yeah. So there's lots of different options out there for dog training, right? We're just going to be talking, basic obedience here. What is the best way to word this? A new dog owner is looking at training their dog. Mm-hmm. Which of the two different options should they go with? Should they go for a do-it-yourself option where you're, taking an online course, or you're watching a DVD, or you're reading books? Or should they go with a more personalized approach, a one-on-one training with a dog trainer, joining an obedience class at their local pet store? Are there benefits to both, and how should someone determine which one is right for them?
Yes. All right. Very good question as well. So I would say there's benefit on both sides, but I would say the best way to start training your dog is starting to do private session. Private session is more one-on-one. You get more out of it. Whereas if you're doing a group class or you're doing online class, anything like that, you are kind of not participating fully into it. You're just one of them, whereas one-on-one, you are kind of not forced, but you are more involved with the training.
And when you say a private session, you mean like a one-on-one with a trainer?
One-on-one, yes.
Okay.
One-on-one, yes. One-on-one is more important. I've been training dog owners for over 10 years now, and all the time I'm trying to figure out what will benefit dog owners more than other. And I've done group classes, I've done puppy classes, I've done privates, and I see that private sessions, people get more benefit out of it than when it's group classes. Because let's say in a group class, you're one of the 6 or 12 students, and you know there's other students, other dogs are in the class, other people in the class. They're chatting, the dogs are playing and reacting and barking, distracted, and you're just focused on whatever is happening, and the instructor is trying to teach you, and you just want to go.
It's all a mess. It's just a big mess.
Exactly. You're not getting anything out of it. And what happens, let's say if it's a 6-week course or a 8-week course, after 8 weeks you say, well, I didn't learn anything. I didn't get anything out of this course, right? So this dog trainer or this whatever is crap. It doesn't work. I didn't get anything out of it. So that's what happens. Because you're not focused on what you're supposed to learn. So I would say start with private sessions, one-on-one, build that knowledge, build that technical knowledge, build that mental knowledge, and then go and practice it. So the second part of this answer to this question is you have to actually physically and mentally and emotionally and soul, everything, you have to put into it and actually do it. You have to practice with your dog. The command, for example, if you're learning to command sit, you have to practice it every day.
All the time.
All the time, maybe for a month, 2, 3 months, you have to practice it. It's not just a 6-week course that you take and it's
and then
done.
Your dog's trained forever.
No, exactly. It's one is you have to actually learn the technique. So private session gives you that option and ability to learn the commands and all the techniques. And then you go and practice it for a long time. And number 3 is you got to practice it for the whole life of the dog.
Right.
It's not just a 1-month practices and training. It's a whole year, like lifetime. It's kind of, we say lifetime dog training, because it's not that you're always training the dog, but always you're challenging yourself and the dog to learn something new.
And you're reinforcing a previously learned behavior.
Yes. So I would say the last thing I would suggest every 3-4 years you want to take a refresher course. Refresher course is basically going back to the basic and learning what you had learned, let's say 4 years ago.
That you've forgotten because you don't use anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, and the dog forgets too, and then the dog owners blame the dog. They say, "Oh, he knows how to sit. Now I'm telling it to sit. It doesn't sit." Because not that they forget, they say, we haven't practiced at all.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think it's kind of similar to human beings. If there's a skill that you have, this is a super random out there example, but let's say that you know how to blacksmith, but you don't blacksmith for 5 years. You're probably not going to be very good at it the first day you try it again.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So it's very important to practice it all the time. So you're into it and your dog is into it, and you never forget, and you have always something to come back to.
Right.
And say, you know what? Let's practice it there. And the last thing I would say is training dogs, it's not what we think it is. It's not training a soldier, right? It's not sit, stay in. That's the idea dog owners have. Actually, training a dog is, for me, the dog training that I do and system that I introduce to dog owners is actually having fun for 15, 20 minutes a day. You're basically playing and having a good time with your dog. And meanwhile, your dog is just enjoying that interaction with you, and meanwhile is learning something.
Yeah.
So that's what training should be. Training should be fun, not, training a soldier.
I totally agree. And It's, for me, it's even fun because while I'm training the dogs, and I try to, because I do have a super busy lifestyle with running a business, running a YouTube channel, having a full 9 to 5, having a 1/3 acre yard to take care of, mow the lawn, pull the weeds. I try to mix it in together. So if I'm, let's say I have to go and water this plant, I'll ask the dogs to stay where they're at, and then I'll go and I'll get over there. The whole while they're just sitting there wagging their tails with smiles on their faces, and as soon as I get over there, I release them and they come running and smiles are on their faces, tails are wagging, and it should be fun.
It should be fun. You know, let's say in other example, if you have an office work and you're working in the office, your dog can be sitting by your desk and staying while you're working. 10 minutes later, release, play 5 minutes, come back to work. So you're having a good time, your dog isn't having a good time. So it's not always work, you know, and train. It's always fun.
Yeah, and then I think that even on the human side of it, if it's all just, you know, soldier train, you're going to get burnt out because you're not having fun either. Like, okay, well, they know the behavior now. Now I feel like I'm just forcing myself into the situation. So maybe I'll do it a little less and a little less and a little less, and before you know it, it's a month ago since you've had a training session.
You're trained.
I mean, I literally don't walk out of the house without, you know, some way to engage dogs. Wolken has this, used to be a basketball years ago, that's now just this big hunk of leather that we just throw to the other end of the yard. It should be fun. It should be fun.
Exactly. You know, their dogs are fun animals, and we should learn from them. And don't be so serious, and don't be so tight. But you know, life and everything, we have to be having a little bit more connection with our dogs, especially if we are dog owners. We have to take advantage of it and just be connected a little bit to them and learn from them. And take it easy a little bit and relax rather than work and this and that.
Totally agree.
All right.
Well, I think we should wrap up here. Do you have anybody that is in my audience here? Is there any final closing words that you would say to a person that either has had dogs for their whole life and they're just barely starting to train, or they got their first puppy, or is there anything that you want to say to the person training a dog for the first time?
Just going back, dog training, it's not something that you say, I have to do this because I want to see this. It's not that. You have to see it from your dog's point of view. Your dog needs you to do this.
Right.
It's not that you have to do it. Your dog needs you to do this. Your dog needs you to take the time and just focus on them. So they can benefit from the opportunity that you have to have a dog with you. If you don't have training, you don't have any form of communication with your dog. And it's that lack of communication that causes dogs to start developing bad behaviors. And then we blame the dog because we didn't take the time to teach the dog what we want them to learn. And so that's what you have to look at it. The way you look at it is not from our point of view, it's from dog's point of view. Just think of it this way. You brought a stranger to your home, stranger in a strange land, and you say, good luck. Right? They don't have any idea what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to live. So it becomes stressful for them to live with us. So to distress them, we have to teach them what to do and how to live. So our job should be me taking the time to take care of my dog and teach them how to live with us. So look at it that way. So training is not just to sit and stay and all that. It's teaching them how to live with humans.
Right. I love it. Cool. And if I had one final thing to say to your audience, it would be whether you start on raw feeding, which I obviously recommend that you do, or you just are wanting to upgrade and you want to go from kibble to homemade cooked options, whatever it is that you do, please do your research, whether that is taking a course, whether that is getting with a trainer, whether that is reading books. You know, don't just jump in head first. There's a fine line between being nervous and so you never start, and just starting with no information. I think that you have to find the happy balance. You have to educate yourself enough that you can safely implement what it is that you want to do, and then take the leap, even though you might still be a little bit nervous. So get yourself educated, regardless of the way that you do it. Because no matter what way that you educate yourself, even if maybe it's not the best way to educate yourself, educating yourself is still better than just jumping in blind.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, our job, I think, is to educate dog lovers.
Yep.
My goal is to create educated dog lovers. So the more education they get, and we inform dog owners, and they get something out of it, it's much more beneficial for them.
Agreed.
And they will have a better behaving, healthy, happy dog.
Yeah.
And also, we will put all the resources, all the information that we can get regarding both subject training and the diet in the links below.
Yep, absolutely. In both, this is going to be published on my channel and on Saro's channel, and we'll have, you know, links to each other's websites, to the opposing YouTube channel, all of it. We're going to have all of it in there.
Yes.
All right. Well, perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great whatever day it is that you are watching this video, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.